I was 8 years old when I first heard Elvis. I was sitting on my bed listening to a new tape by a singer I didn't recognize, and the first song was Hound Dog. As it played, an indescribable feeling rushed through my body. The music and voice that came out of the cassette sounded like the coolest thing in the world. People think it is easy to be a tribute act. They think all it takes is a couple of sideburns, saying ah ha ha, and a pair of golden sunglasses. But then it would be a joke, and it is not. It is about celebrating Elvis. To me it is about acting and practice. It really is about standing in front of the mirror with a hairbrush. I have done a lot of research, studying his movements and listening to interviews to get the voice. You need to convince the audience. My respect for Elvis should shine through. I know I am not Elvis, but I hope that when I perform, people might forget that for a moment. Tony Nielsen, 31, Norway. Tony Nielsen. Photograph Andreas Beck. My grandfather was a big fan, and so is my father, who is a preacher. As a child, I used to sing in my local gospel choir, just as Elvis did. These days my dad always comes to see me perform. I work as a roofer, and spend an hour each evening practicing when I get home. I work as a roofer, and spend an hour each evening practicing when I get home. I have a basement fitted with a little stage, speakers and a microphone. Sometimes my children join me, and have song requests. They've grown up with their dad being Elvis. When I practice, I imagine it's a live show, and that I have a crowd in front of me. When I sing some of the songs I know my grandfather used to love, I get really emotional. People like it when you sing from your heart. Gonzalo Haya, 46, Gran Canaria. Gonzalo Haya. Photograph Andreas Beck. I was 7 when Elvis died. I am from Uruguay, but I was living in Vienna at the time, and I remember the very day he died, I began to watch his films and play his songs. Today I live in Gran Canaria with my family. When I moved here, I began working as a singer in restaurants, hotels and different social clubs. Even after 3 hours of music, the only thing people would comment on was my Elvis songs, so I decided to do a show that was only him. That first show felt great, and soon afterwards I bought a leather jacket and then a jumpsuit. I worried that people would find all the gear totally ridiculous, but they loved it. Suddenly people wanted to have a photo taken with me. I really began to feel like the king. When I sing a song close to the way Elvis sang it, I get this special feeling, and I can see the crowd feels the same. I come home happy, because I know I've made them happy. Lee Alexander, 46, England. Lee Alexander. Photograph Andreas Beck. I always wanted to be an Elvis tribute act, but circumstances in my life never really allowed it. 3 years ago, I thought, I am getting old, it's now or never. I don't want to go through my life regretting the things I didn't do. Off stage, I am just Lee, married, 2 children, that's it. But something just takes over on stage. When I was 21 and used to sing karaoke, someone described me as an introverted extrovert. I am better on stage than off. Off stage, I am just Lee, married, 2 children, that's it. But something just takes over on stage. It's an overwhelming feeling of getting into each and every song. I come alive. I have been married twice and have had a lot of heartache. A lot of Elvis songs are so emotionally powerful I am close to breaking down. When people ask me to sing Memories, I choke up. It was played at my daughter's funeral. We had twin girls and one of our daughters was stillborn. Recently, I started singing All That I Am, which is a beautiful love song, and I sing it to my wife at home. You in my heart, my soul, my dream come true. All that I am because of you. She loves it. Eddie Popescu, 40, England. Eddie Popescu. Photograph Andreas Beck. Back in Romania, I didn't get a chance to do my Elvis show. People like Elvis there, but not the way they do in the UK. My brother-in-law moved here a few years ago and noticed that everybody loved Elvis. He told me to come and give it a try. I left my band in Romania and moved to Newcastle with my wife in 2010. It was very tough in the beginning. I bought a small amplifier and a generator, and started singing on the streets. I spent many hours in the rain and cold, but after a while people started booking me. Eventually, I became very popular in the area and was awarded Best Newcomer in a contest for all the entertainment agencies in Newcastle. Now I do the show full-time, and I am booked every weekend throughout the year. Everybody likes Elvis. Oliver Steinhoff, 46, Germany. Oliver Steinhoff. Photograph Andreas Beck. When I am on stage, one lose my German accent completely. But it is only because I have practiced, up to 3 hours a day at the beginning. That is what you need to do to learn the lyrics, the melodies and how Elvis moves. After 5 years, I had the confidence to go on stage. Now I play for crowds of between 500 and 4,000. It is hard work being Elvis, but I love it. That's the difference between doing this job and my old one. I used to be a welder. People have a hard time understanding that being a tribute act is my full-time job. They keep asking me how I pay my bills, and I keep telling them that I do Elvis full-time. I worry about what is going to happen when I am in my mid-50s. We will have to see what happens. I didn't expect the last 10 years to be so successful. Being Elvis has taught me that instead of fearing failure, people should be positive. Follow your dreams. After practice and some lessons, success will come. John David Thomas, 49, Wales. John David Thomas. Photograph Andreas Beck. Whatever Elvis sings you can to relate to in life. When my dad was buried on a sunny day in 2001, I sang his favorite song, How Great Thou Art. When I stood there at the end of his grave when they were lowering him down, I had the feeling of Elvis standing by my right side and my father on my left side. My dad was listening to me singing it, and Elvis enjoyed helping me sing the song. I felt a mix of warmth and comfort despite the feeling of grief. I knew that it was making it a better place for him while going down. I have lost 3 important people in my life to cancer, and that made me lose all faith in God. Lately I have started to look at Elvis songs and try to find a meaning in them. I started to sing his gospel songs, and even if I am not a believer I start thinking about it. And it helps me cope with my loss. Somehow there is a meaning with life. Antonio Ortis, 52, Italy. Antonio Ortis. Photograph Andreas Beck. I have been singing all my life. I remember being a child and singing in the shower. In Italy, we have many beautiful songs, but Elvis songs are just better. I really like his modulations and voice. I really like it when I hit the high notes. When I sing Elvis songs I get these strong emotions. My heart starts to pump heavily and I can dream. At some point, you feel strong and suddenly you are vulnerable. When I sing I want to pass those feelings on to the audience. It is like telling a story. Fisher Stevens, 49, England. Fisher Stevens. Photograph Andreas Beck. When I was a kid I listened to Elvis all the time whether I liked it or not, mainly because of my mother. Her teenage friends would even call her Elvis, because she was such a huge fan. Sometimes my parents would bring friends back home after a night out in town and put Elvis records on. They would get me out of bed and get me downstairs to sing. It was an absolutely amazing experience to see the Chinese go crazy. They were worse than Americans. The highlight of my career was a 42-show tour of China 2 years ago. No Elvis has ever done this. We played in huge theaters for 3,000 to 4,000 people every night. It was an absolutely amazing experience to see the Chinese go crazy. They were worse than Americans. I really felt I was Elvis Presley, and I think a lot of people believed I was the real Elvis. After a show they would rush to the back of the concert hall to catch my car Lavinger to get autographs or a scarf. Matt King, 51, England. Matt King. Photograph Andreas Beck. It all started in 1991 when I went to Tenerife on holiday. I was 23 and I entered a singing contest for fun, and things just took off from there. I decided to return to Tenerife and started singing for food, but when I realized the bars and restaurants were filling up when I sang, I thought I ought to be paid. Now I'm a black cab driver in London, but I can't stop doing my Elvis tribute. It's a love affair. You can't do it unless you love Elvis. When I see old recordings of Elvis perform and hear the sound of his voice, I feel great. I feel a warmth and I want him to be my friend. That's why thousands of guys keep paying tribute and respect to him. Commenting on this piece. If you would like your comment to be considered for inclusion on Weekend Magazine's letters page in print, please email weekend@theguardian.com, including your name and address, not for publication.